Hey guys, welcome to the Canadian Spartan Ambassador Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Amber.
And I'm Jill, and we are ready to take you through some Canadian Spartan content. We are so excited to bring this podcast to you where we will discuss lots of topics Spartan Race Canada.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected for all our exciting episodes to come. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Canadian Spartan Ambassador Podcast. We are at episode 7, lucky number 7. So if you've been with us this long, thanks for sticking around. We today have a very special guest, Connor Bell. He was the winner of the Canadian Series in 2022 in the age group 25 to 29. And he's going after that title again this year, but in a different age bracket. He's moving up and he's kicking things off this weekend at Red Deer in the 5K sprint. They'll be kicking off the Canadian National Series. So welcome to the podcast, Connor. We are so excited to have you here with us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You do what do you do in your day? Do you train others or just train yourself?
That's an open-ended question, but I like it. That's good. Okay. So, yeah, I'm a personal trainer and online coach. So I do a little bit of both, and I train myself a bunch too, but that's probably another portion of this interview that we'll get to. So I usually train like a few people per day out of my garage gym here. But then I'm mainly online as well too. And I train a bunch of people from different demographics, whether it's just like general fitness goals or OCR related as well too. So I started back in 2017. So it could be people like me back in the day that didn't know what the heck Spartan was and just wanted to get into the sport. Or it could be people who are searching for age group podiums right now and they're looking for more advanced programming. So yeah, it's a little bit of combination of everything. I just keep myself busy. And the good thing about it too is that it keeps my mind on fitness the whole time. So I know if they're all getting it done, I have to get it done too. So it's good.
I love that. That is accountability at its finest.
Right.
So you specialize in OCR, which is super cool as a trainer. So when did you first when did you first experience OCR? Was it with Spartan? What was your journey from first experience to winning the Canadian Series in your age group last year?
Funny because I've wanted to make a video about this for so long because I do a lot of social media stuff. If people follow me on Spartan Stamina, I want to do a video because I feel like a lot of people have an interpretation sometimes that it's just okay, that guy automatically had that and now he just got there, and it's hard to see the process of it, right? But I did my first race back in 2017, and I can you swear on this thing? Are we allowed to swear? I won't swear. I swear.
I think I've sworn once or twice.
Okay, I'm usually a swearer because I'm passionate, but I won't swear as much. I essed the bed, we'll say, or pooed the bed on one of my races, and it was in 2017. It was a Tough Mudder, and I played competitive rugby and soccer back in the day, so my endurance was always there. It's just I was looking for something else competitive when I got out of it, and I just didn't know what the whole OCR thing was about. So I did Tough Mudder, went through it, did okay, but then looked for something more competitive in 2018 and found Spartan racing. And I did an open category. I think it was a 5 or a 10K at Toronto, but I forget where it was, if it was Brimacombe or not at that point. I don't think it was Brimacombe. I think it started with a D. It was somewhere. I forget where it was.
Duntroon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay, fun fact. I have family there. That's how I knew that. I was not an OCR at that time.
Yeah.
But I have heard they used to do it there. Okay.
And that's not really Toronto. That's close to me. That's not quite Toronto, but
it's like Hollywood.
Yes.
So we're gonna call it Spartan Toronto, apparently.
Spartan Toronto.
But yeah, so I did that there, and I did an open category, and I came 4th overall in my category at that point. And I was training, but I like to always tell people that people say, how do you run 8 or 10K as a recovery run? And it wasn't like that back then. I set myself a goal that year to run 1,000 kilometers in the 1 year, which equates to 3 kilometers a day, which was I'd wake up every morning at 6 or 7 in the morning before going to class when I was in university at that point, and I'd run my 3-kilometer route, and I'd die a little bit each and every single time just running the 3Ks, which is it's weird to think about that now because I have a thing beside me that says run 2,250 kilometers in this year. So every year I've upped it by 250 kilometers. So it's been a really slow and steady progress. But anyways, I did that. And then in 2019, I think I did my first age group and I did okay. I came in top 10. But then I figured I was actually competitive. COVID hit, it was actually a blessing in disguise. I ended up just training my ass off, my butt off, whatever you can say on here for now, as much as I could throughout these 2 years. And then I came back after COVID for my first race in Blue Mountain, I believe, and I did the 5K, and I ended up winning it. I got first place, and I ended up what I got like fourth in the lead or something as well too, which was really, really good for me. 5Ks were my jam. They still kind of are. And yeah, that took me to where I am right around now. So yeah, now the next step is hopefully a lead after hopefully winning the series again.
Okay, I want to point something out here, because you made a really good comment about, people always just think you magically got really good at Spartan races. You were just a natural athlete, which, yeah, you have an athletic background, and that does help to an extent. But thank you for sharing your journey, because I think it's very easy for listeners and other athletes, or someone just getting started, to compare their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever. So thank you so much for sharing that. That 3K was hard for you, and now you're doing 8-10 kilometer recovery runs, which is a big example of growth. So that's really cool, and that's part of your journey. So if you guys are listening, like, embrace your hard now and just use this as an inspiration that you keep putting in the work, and one day you'll get to where you want to be. So
yeah, and I find for Connor, Connor does a lot of the Canadian Spartan social media content, and that's just by kind of almost by accident. Connor posts a lot of instructional videos, and then Spartan picks them up and reposts them. How did that start for you? And why are you doing that?
Yeah, good question. Before I even go to that, one thing I would say with Amber's thing, before I even get to the social media thing, was that I think that that whole thing, it's hard to be transparent sometimes, even as us as athletes, because we forget where we were at one point, and it's like looking in the mirror every single day and not seeing improvement, because every single day it's hard. But if you really do go back and dissect the whole thing, I guess there's one trait that I would say that's biggest on anybody, and it's perseverance of pushing on all the times, because life consistently just gets in the way. And when I say gets in the way, I mean it in like a positive manner at the same time. Just try your best to stay consistent. And on the days you don't want to do it, probably more important the days you do want to do it, because majority of the time you're not going to want to do it, especially when you're trying to stay consistent and grind throughout. But we'll probably get back to that. How the whole social media
absolutely
thing happened was absolutely, like you said, Joe, was through probably a mistake. I'm a very I looked for all, when I first started, I looked for all so I'm like somebody who looks in very in-depth when I'm getting into something, and I try to like map it all out. How can I do really well at this? What can I do to improve myself? So I was looking for that online. Like I was looking for like videos of certain obstacles, different ways to get proficient at certain things. What should I be training? How should I be running? My splits and such like that. And I really couldn't find that much online. And I was like, oh, this is like an avenue that, like, if I put more knowledge into on social media side, maybe I can help make it more transparent for others who are also looking for the same stuff that I was looking for, and then maybe get them like psyched up about Spartan racing. That to know like how to do it efficiently and effectively, but B, also to show that like it's not as scary as sometimes Spartan promotes it to be. And I don't mean that again in a negative way. It's sweet. I think you're overcoming obstacles, you're pushing yourself to your barriers, you're always going over 100% of what you think your capacity is, but that can be really, really scary for some people right away. Even as a trainer, I know when someone comes in the first time, like I got to be the one to break the ice and be like, hey, we're going to ease you into this, and we're not just going to slam you right down right away. Don't think that just because I'm all passionate and energetic that's what you're going to get. And I want to be like a face for that. I want to be like a hopeful, like a very easygoing mentality, like, listen, this is how you do, this is how you can train, and the first time you do it, you're going to get addicted, so just beware.
Just be prepared for that part. Yeah, because I find I'm the same way as you, but I have two ways. I like to just wing it a lot of the times, and then after I've just winged it the second time, I like to know every single detail about it. So I actually did find as well, looking at your videos, I just thought they were so in depth and great, especially for first time, and just to kind of see what it is like. Even if you're not going to go train the exact way you say that you're going to do it, at least they're there and you can see the obstacles and stuff like that. And and you've talked about the series before too. So that's kind of our big segue into talking about the series tonight. But we are just about to have our very first race of the Canadian National Series. And like Amber was saying, Connor was the winner in the 25 to 29 category last year. So he won the big delta and a couple of other prizes. This year, the series is in 3 locations. And I'm going to let Connor take it away with that. Tell us a little bit about the Canadian National Series and where you're headed.
Yeah, so Red Deer this weekend, July 22nd, I believe that it's a 5K, so it's on the Sunday. It's race 1 of the National Series there. So yeah, I'm excited for that one, hands down. It's been what I basically, it's my biggest A race towards basically all of this, and then my next one being DECA that we can get to after.
Yeah.
Shout out Amber, Pure Impact Athletics over there. But that's the first one, July 22nd. The second one is in Kelowna, September 3rd. It's the 10K. So a little more altitude, obviously, because it's going to be more hillier. And then the last one is on October 22nd or 21st. It's the Saturday 21K. So it's race 3 in Blue Mountain. So yeah, there's actually a good spacing in between all of them for you to let yourself kind of recover, then ramp back up. But it's going to be killer. I'm excited. I've never been to Kelowna either before, and Red Deer's a big redemption race for me. So yeah.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. The redemption. Sorry, Amber.
Hang on, I have one question. Just because there's listeners on here that might not really understand how the series works.
Yeah.
So if you can, Connor, just explain like what you had to do to earn your points to ultimately win the series in your age group last year. Just so people can understand, what it looks like to participate in the series.
For sure. It's a great question too, because I think it's one that's really hard for me to put into a 1-minute video. So let's see if I can break this down. Okay? Let's compare last year to this year really quick. Okay. So last year there were still 3 races. I think one was Montreal 5K, one was 10K in Red Deer, the other one was 21K in Blue Mountain. So there's still the 3 races, but you took your 2 best races and the 2 cumulative scores basically went towards your overall total in your age group. So how it is this year is all 3 races count towards basically your cumulative total. So for you to basically have a prerequisite to be in the actual Canadian National Series, you have to hit all 3 races, which means you have to go to Red Deer, you have to go Kelowna, and you have to go to Blue Mountain as well. Now, the way that the point systems worked is a little bit all over the place here for people that don't have the best math background, but I'll see if I can break it down here as well too, okay? If I'm racing in the 30 to 34 age category and I get 50 minutes in the 5K 5-0, let's say I get 50 minutes, and somebody else gets 53 minutes, who's second place, you take 53 and you divide it by 50, and it's going to give you a decimal of like 0.93, and you times that by 1,000 and you get like 993. First place would get 1,000. The second place would get 993. So the way that it works basically is based off of whoever gets first, how far you are behind first. So it becomes very, very, that's the word, very, very intricate based on how far you are behind first. It's not just like second place and third place. Your time matters once you're behind first place. So if you're looking to get on there in top 3, you really want to make sure you're staying close to first place, if that makes sense. But you got to do some math.
Yeah. So we'll refer back to that part of the video when we want to do calculations, or we'll just send you a quick little message because you lost me at the decimal points. But
yeah, all good.
The way I kind of understand it is just stick to if you're not in first, stick to the person that as close as you can. But what I like about that too, and I don't know if you feel the same way, is that it kind of makes it an even playing field. So if there's someone who is like a very talented runner out in one place and then they don't show up to the next one, so then you win, and it just kind of evens it a little bit. I don't know if you feel good about that, but so I do like it. The math, not so much.
No, it's good for the reason that like I'm way better at shorter stuff than I am longer stuff. So for those that are really good at the long stuff and me good at the short stuff, it definitely evens the playing field for long endurance athletes to short sprinty guys.
So I'm curious, like, what's your approach when you go into your series race? Because that's where placement really matters most. So like, I guess like what's your race, strategy, I guess you would say. Like, you're not racing your time, you're racing placement. give us a little bit about your strategy, I guess, without like throwing it away.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it.
The
I'm gonna
secrets.
send it right here. Yeah, I'm gonna send it hard. Because Red Deer is 5K and it's flat. For me, I'm gonna absolutely. This is the one I know that I have a chance of gaining the most points. And that's not like a cockiness in any manner. That's just I know what I'm good at when it comes to just shorter distance stuff. The 10K, because it's hilly, never been to Kelowna, that one I'm gonna definitely have to take a wider approach of asking people like what the map layout's like and what that first climb is like, because I know it's big, and like how things kind of settle out, because I don't know, I'm kind of going in blind there. Blue Mountain was my savior last year, in a weird way, because I needed that race, because in Red Deer, which we'll get to in a second, Jill, about me having that a redemption for last year, because I needed that race after the 5K in Montreal, I needed the 21K on there. I really had to perform. So I really had to train long distance for like 3 months, and I was training angry at that point because I was DQ'd from the Red Deer one, and I made a post about it that said like, if you're coming to Blue Mountain and you're racing me an age group, like watch out. And I meant it in a way of more confidence towards myself of being like, you're going to do this and you're going to do it well. And there was one guy, more than anything, who were really good friends, but I was trying to beat, and I ended up beating him by like a minute or something after like a 3-hour race.
Are we going to disclose his name?
I can, yeah. No, he
Especially
is now
if you're friends.
still stuck with 25 to 29. His name's Shane McKenzie.
Amazing. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. He's an absolute killer. And he and I have always had a friendly competition. And now that we're in different age groups, we still talk to each other and still compare times. So it's fun.
Of course.
Okay,
that's what I love.
Here's my question. Then, because like you're competing for placement, are you going to go out and try and take an early lead and hold it? Yeah. Or are you going to like, yeah, that's the strategy. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's different when you're racing to win in comparison to racing for a time. Like it's a very different strategy, right?
So two things to be brought up with this whole thing that we're talking about right here. The first one is, and I made a post about, the guy who starts in first rarely finishes in first, but there is a caveat to that, depending on how long the race is, for sure, hands down. There's also the opposing side to it, which is the out of sight, out of mind. And if you can get out of sight of the people that are behind you and burn a match, is what we call an endurance training essentially here, where you only have a couple matches in your pack here and you can burn a match pretty quickly and get ahead of the pack, you almost defeat the person behind you because they just can't see you. And inevitably they slow down. I've done it before. I try not to, but it's happened to me before where somebody gets in front of me. It happened at Brimacombe.
Oh, yes.
When the guy was in front of me, and I couldn't see him. And I inevitably didn't even notice that I was slowing down. And it's one thing that you got to train yourself not to do. You got like almost pretend he's right in front of you by 5 seconds. But yeah, the 5K, I'm going out hot. The 10K, probably, but it depends on how big that climb is. And the 21K, no way, I'm not going out hot. I'm pacing that whole thing. Hardcore. Yeah. Until like the last like 4K. Then I'm just,
And hopefully that's all done.
Out of sight, out of mind kind of stressed me out. I took a lead in Brimacombe too, but then when I couldn't see anyone behind me, I felt like I was constantly questioning my own self. I was like, are you moving fast enough? Have you slowed down? Like, I don't know. I think I like being in second and then making the move when the time is right. I don't know.
Interesting call. Hands down.
I mean, that's risky. That's risky. You don't know if your time is going to come, right? So
I think you need to be most familiar with your body and knowing like, so what I do. So let's take Kelowna 10K for instance, or Brimacombe 10K, doesn't matter. I went out and knowing that was 400 meters of elevation, I went over to a ski hill and I ran 12K for like 600 meters. So I did like 2 extra and I ran it really, really hard. And I didn't gas out until the very end where I was coming down the hill. And I said to myself, okay, if I can do that, add some obstacles on in between, I should be okay for that. So I knew kind of how hard I could push myself into it without burning out too early, right? So for anyone watching this, I would say, if you ever have a chance of like training to the test before going into your 5K that has 200 or 300 meters of elevation gain, try to map that out if you can somewhere. Go to a ski hill, local ski hill, and try to find out where you can push your barriers to, because you gain so much mental confidence too when you go into it. You're like, oh,
when you know.
Easy. Well, not easy, but you know what I mean. No, yeah.
It's true.
Mental is such a huge thing.
And knowing strengths, like I usually make a move on obstacles. Like that's where I'm super efficient, and that's I have an advantage. But then I never know if it's too soon. I got to take the time while it's there, right? And at that 5K in Brimacombe, I was just like, okay, I made my move, now kind of hold it, right? Like that was like the mental game for me was how long can I hold this? And
spoiler though,
well,
she did hold it, so
Yeah.
yeah, I did, but I was quite happy to see the finish line at the end there. So anyways, yeah, it's interesting, like different athletes, different strategies. And that's why I always like to ask, like, you know, when you're racing for placement, it's another ball game. Like it's there's a lot of strategies involved. So I mean, the 5K you said is your favorite of the series?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the shorter the better for me. Let's call a spade right now. I'm running the 21Ks, A, as a challenge to myself, and B, because they're in the series. But if and when I move to elite, which I'm assuming I will next year, I'll probably pick and choose my races a little bit more, just because I don't really want to be too burnt out the next day of running elite back to back type of thing. And it would probably be more the 5s and 10Ks, only because I'm just better and I enjoy them more. And it's not to say I like to stick to things that I'm good at. But it was a huge thing for me to get a third place in Montreal. So I went to Montreal for anyone's looking this year, and I had never podiumed a beast before. Podium a lot of 10Ks and 5Ks, but it's been something that I've been fighting for a long time. I just tend to cramp a lot. I sweat like it's my day job out there, guys. And I need electrolytes on point. People are looking at me like this guy's got like a huge pack. Like I got it filled to the brim with water of like 3-4 liters extra weight on there. And I'm through that whole thing in like 14, 15 kilometers. And for me to get that third place, I'm smiling about it right now because it was like one of the bigger, it was a third place and it was the biggest accomplishment thus far in my Spartan racing. Because it was a packed house of athletes. There was like people raising up France flags there and such too, and like which was huge for me. And then there was a big competition between me and a friend who's in that age group as well, that I had to try to outdo him, and he's a killer. We all know him in the sport of DECA, and I'll give him a shout out right now. His name's Pat Millington, and we have a friendly competition. He's an animal, absolute animal, and he beat me the next day on the 10K, which good for him. It was awesome, and I was just one of those big things where I overcame what my mind said I could do, and I suffered the repercussions the next day. My legs were absolutely toasted, hands down. Yeah, toasted.
So you're going out to Red Deer this weekend. Are you going to, the 5K is on the Sunday. I'm going to assume you're not doing the trifecta weekend.
Not doing the trifecta weekend.
I
the
figured
5K. Yeah.
Tell us about Red Deer. You know about Red Deer. That's coming up. A lot of our listeners are going to want to know what the train is like, what it's going to be about. What's Red Deer like?
For sure. So I was there for 7 kilometers out of the 10K last year, which we'll get to at the end of this portion. But the terrain's super flat. I even saw I think it was today or yesterday when the race program came out, and I think it's at 100 meters of elevation gain for the 5K and like 170 meters of elevation gain for the 10K. And for people who don't know what that means, it's very flat. There's a few climbs, but the climbs are minuscule, for lack of a better term. And it's so when I was running through Red Deer last year, be aware that it starts off and it gets very narrow very quick. So this start line, people need to go, I'm giving away the secrets here. People want to go fast off the hop, not in a means to waste your energy, but because it gets so narrow. And if you're looking to pass people, you don't want to have to get stuck in between so often, right? So it gets very windy. It's somewhat technical, but it's fast and flat. So if you're looking for a good race course that's fast and flat, this is going to be the one for you.
Amazing. And what happened in your Red Deer race last time? What was the story? There's a story.
Yeah, there's a story here. So luckily I made the trip there, and I got to see Banff and everything the day before. So it wasn't a complete, I won't call it waste of time, because I got good pictures and such too. And it's beautiful there. If you've never been to Banff, oh my gosh, go to Banff. But I was racing with my friend Isaac Sanderson, who's now in elite, and he's in the States now. He actually just crushed the Utah race and ended up getting first in elite. So
awesome.
She's a killer. But it was just me and him basically, and we were trying to clinch the national series. So we both came first in our age groups, we'd be good to go. we were killing it going through the race. I was trying to keep up with him, and I got like 6 kilometers in. I was looking back. I felt good. I knew it was just me and him at the top. And I went to climb the box, which for those who don't know, it's the big box with a big rope that comes down the side. And I really don't utilize the rope. I kind of just jump up and try to, because I'm tall enough to grab the big bar at the top and pull myself up. And I did so, and I got myself up, and there's 3 metal bars that come down on the way down. Well, it was very dewy in the morning, and I really wasn't looking too much. And when I came to the second bar, my foot slipped backwards and my shin scraped down like that. And I didn't notice. I just noticed that like I almost hit myself in my special place, but I didn't. So I was pretty happy with it. So I kept running, and I ran to the Olympus, and it was like right beside it. And I went to put my foot up on the Olympus wall, and I saw my bone. And it was like bright white. My shin was scraped straight down, and it was ripped right open.
Oh my God.
Holy.
And there was 2 people who were the Spartan people there, who were working there, shout out volunteers. And I looked at the one girl, and I said, "Oh no." She goes, "Oh no." And I said, "Yeah, it doesn't look so good, eh?" I was like, "Should I stop?" And I knew I memorized the race maps as much as I can, especially National Series ones. So I knew rolling mud was coming up after this. Yeah. And I looked and I said, "Should I stop?" And she goes, "Oh, it's like you could probably keep going. You're only a few kilometers away." And the one guy behind her goes, "Dude, like he can't go on. Like he needs to stop." Yeah. So like I was completely defeated. They called the meds, and they brought them all over, and they took me off, and I was waiting in the hospital for like 13 hours to get stitches. And that's when I went back home and I made that post, and I reassessed basically everything about my training, because I knew if I clinched that 10K, I wouldn't have trained hard for the 21K, because there was only 2 of the 3 races last year. So I always look at those things as a blessing in disguise. It made me run like really big distances that I would never run, and I was way better for 21Ks, which got me way better prepared for this year and will keep me better prepared. So it's like you got to always look at the positives of all
and just
stuff.
take the path that you're given too. Like it's not always the path that you're creating. Sometimes the path goes this way and you don't have a choice. So just follow that path now, and you're so that's interesting. I love learning stuff too. Like I don't mind if I fail. I mean, I'm mad at the time, but I like to look back, and I'm sure most Spartan people are like that too. Like, okay, I'm so angry. I didn't do what I was going to do. I went to Red Deer, but now I'm going to spend a year training like crazy so that I can come back and clinch the series, which you ultimately did. So
yeah,
for sure.
Do you think that like added fuel to your fire, like for this year? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like it's been on my mind, Amber, for like basically the full year now. Like ever since that happened, like my whole training philosophy completely changed. And if people are like, what does that mean? It just means that I knew there was more that I could put on my volume specifically. And that's very relative to me, and it's relative to you, whoever you are. But I knew that there was pieces that I was missing out, and like I was selling myself short of what I could do endurance wise for longer distances. So oh my gosh, it fanned the flame big time for me. So I'm going in. If anyone ever meets me, they might automatically think that I have like a resting dick face sometimes at the start line. At a start line, really? only because I'm just zoned, and like I have to be. It's just the way that I am. But the moment I'm done a race, or even during the race too, like I'm very chirpy, I'm very talky. You heard me on the hill that one time.
To you. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I was the same way in sports. I was the first person to chirp at somebody and such, because I always liked the psychological warfare, but in a very happy-go-lucky way. And then I'm talkative after. I always want to know what went wrong in certain people's races, where they think they can improve. Let's chit-chat back and forth about what your training plan's like, how I can maybe incorporate some stuff that you use into mine, and vice versa. I'm a social butterfly like that, I guess. So yeah.
Just not at the start line.
I'm pretty sure I've chatted you up at the start line this year. I'm pretty sure in Tremblay, but that wasn't a series race. So maybe you didn't have RBF that day.
Maybe. Yeah. It's a hard call. And yeah, you know what? Maybe National Series will get me again. I don't know. But it was different last year, I guess, at the same time. I try not to get too intense, but it's hard for me not to when you're passionate too, right?
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. So anyways, those of you going to Red Deer in age group 30 to 34 doing the sprint, watch out.
Someone get a picture.
He's seeking revenge.
And get a
Yeah.
picture of that face. We got to see that one. Somebody's got to take that. Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah, we can make it a new meme on Instagram or something. We can let you go viral next.
Yeah, there will never be like a dick picture of me now, only because like I've now said this, so I'm just gonna get to every start line to be thinking about it and always be
like,
smiling now. Yeah.
I actually think it's gonna be my goal this year. I'm gonna get one. It's like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's
Because I'll be
awesome.
in your starting line. We're in the same age group, so
Yeah.
I got this, listeners. I've got this. I
Good.
will follow through. We
That's
will
good.
make this happen.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we are super pumped for you. I'm hoping, well, I will be happy no matter what the story is, because whatever the story is, there's going to be learning in there. So I hope you win, but of course, how
Yeah.
are you going to shift your gears training wise? Because I know they're very different races. For me personally, I like to do the big race first and then go to the small, only because, oh, sorry. Let's go back. I like to do the small race first because it's a whole bunch of different training, and then build up to the big races because the small race helps me with the big. Are you like that too? Or are you happy the series is this way?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm happy that the series is the 5, 10, then the 21. However, if it was the other way around, I like I'm all about, if you're gonna train and you know that the 21K is gonna be in there, you might as well already have like a good amount of long distance running already in your arsenal, because chances are, if you're prepared for the 21K, your engine's gonna be primed enough for the 10 and the 5. So I still have that in there, but like hypothetically, I'm very speed oriented right now. It's just because I have this and I have Decafit coming up, which are both very speedy oriented races. But come 10K for Kelowna, I'm going to be very long hill, and then 21K long hill oriented. So yeah.
That sounds
I
great.
have a question actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Hit me.
This is kind of like maybe off topic, maybe on topic. I don't really know. Last year was your first series, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so when you went into that series, did you go in intending just to experience it, or did you go in thinking like, yeah, I'm going in and I'm going to try and win this thing? Like just out of curiosity, because this year you're clearly going in it to win it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of coming back after last year. You know, you hit podium, you did it. But last year, like, what was your mindset entering to your first series?
Yeah, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna like pay the travel fees to go places. Like I'm for me, this is just me specifically. I'm gonna go in to try to do the best that I can, and I want to phrase that correctly too, but in a means of like having a chance to win. And I did go there with the hope to win. Luckily, I already had a couple previous races that year, so I could compare that weren't national series races, so I could compare times to people, so I knew where I was going in and who would be my competition at that point too, right? So yeah, no, I went into I would say I went into place top 3. That was my goal. If I got third, then I would be happy. If I didn't get third, I would probably still be happy, because I'm getting fitness regardless, and I'm learning, like Jill said. But the goal was to win. And the moment that I won the 5K in Montreal, I was like, okay, I can clinch this thing in Red Deer because it's flat. When it came to the 21K, after I failed and DQ'd, I shouldn't say failed, but after I DQ'd, then it became like a whole different, like, can I even do this? Like, is this, because I know everyone else's times who are going against me, and they were like half hours to 40 minutes better than me on the previous year before, when I died in 2021, and I died hard. I was like pale in the face. It was the course that went up and down like 8 black diamonds.
Oh yeah.
I was done. There was nothing left in me. I remember I funny story. I fell asleep on a tree. On that, I literally got to the last climb, and I got halfway the hill, and there was a false peak, and I put my back on a tree because I thought I was at the top, and I had to fall asleep for like 2 minutes, and someone came beside me and snapped me up and said, "Dude, you're so close." So I kept climbing, and you know when you start to hear the like the sounds from the bass, like the music bumping, you're getting so close.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's like music to your ears, literally.
I started to hear that, and when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, I'm right there now." So I just gave her everything I had.
Okay, that is hilarious. So if you guys are listening, There's hope for you because Connor went from falling asleep mid-race
On a
to
tree.
winning a series. So you know what, guys? You start
Pace.
somewhere.
Yes, pace yourself. Don't go as hard as you can off the first 5K. My fault. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then if
God,
you
that
do
would
fall
happen.
asleep on a tree, just get back into training, learn your lesson, and move on, because here we
Yeah.
are now.
Yeah. 4 hours later. My goodness. Yeah.
That is epic. This has to be one of my favorite stories I think we've heard so
Yeah,
far.
that's really good.
True story. True story. No wonder I got an extra like 20 minutes on my score that year.
Yeah, I
was
feel like that wasn't very accurate for you to compare your times if you were, in that state.
But I was only in that state because I didn't pace off the top. I literally pushed that first
Right.
hill as hard as I could, everything I had. And then I remember when I failed my first obstacle, I took off my headband because you had to give it to the person so they could like show it to the camera for my burpees that I was doing when it was burpee laps at that
Oh,
point.
yeah.
And they said, "How much have you sweat in the first 4 kilometers, man? This thing's gross." And I was like, "Oh no, I've completely screwed up."
So
that's
that's quite different from, we just did a podcast. It just came out today, and the strategy of that racer was just in an ultra was not to bring anything. So we have night and day in the last 2 podcasts. I love this. We're
Right.
learning. And then that shows you the difference in Spartan and how everyone does things so differently. And just because you do one thing one way doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And I think that's why we all love this so much. There's so
I
much
know.
variable.
And I love that all these like funny stories are coming out. It's like, what do you call it? Like unfiltered like version of like series racers. It should be like, that should be the name of this race or this
Yeah.
podcast.
People need to know that it doesn't just happen overnight, and experience is like everything. Knowing and going to a course and testing yourself in that course in race pace demands, it's everything. That's more important almost than, shouldn't say more than the training, but knowing that and being able to compare back to that. Oh yeah, that's everything. So learning from your mistakes.
You're racing in a few days. Are you tapering now? What's your schedule look like this week?
I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm bad at tapering. Yeah, I should get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no running on for the first 2 days, and I think I've run like 20 kilometers over the first 2 days here now too. But at a very light intensity. So what I do is when I taper off, I usually go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at like 50 to 60%. Thursday's fully off. Friday, I do some pickups, and if Saturday's race day, then I end up going obviously into the race day at that point, because I do think that your body still needs to have like, I use the term like bounce and jump to it, like elasticity almost to the muscles. So like if you just take everything out and you just sit there and stretch all day, you're almost just like loosening it all up to the point where you're not going to have that bounce or jump off the start line, and you're going to need it for a 5K as well too. And then that's the second portion. It's 5K for me, which for me relatively isn't that much. So I don't need to taper a crazy amount, but I do need to be fresh. So yeah,
especially with your next race coming up, which is DECA, which is very comparable to a 5K race as well. So it's like almost a training week, slightly taper, slightly training, but
so my workouts have been like mini DECA stuff in between station stuff to be like low impact with little mini runs in there as well too, and recovery runs, so I can still keep myself obviously fresh for the station work that has to do with that, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, and I'm loving combining those 2 trainings personally, because I just started it as well. And I'm finding just adding that 1 day of DECA specific training for me has kicked up all of my games. I can even do more pull-ups now, which is really weird. So yeah, I'm not sure.
DECA training very much complements Spartan racing. I find like I'm just so much stronger. I have so much power. So I was actually shocked in Tremblant when I did my 10K age group that I was actually like passing the girls from Quebec on the uphills, on the uphills. They were flying down by me on the downhills, but like the amount of strength I have in my legs now from all the training I've been doing has seriously helped me on my climbs.
Well, yeah, look how fast you do box jumps. No wonder. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if anybody's like, if you're hesitant to train both, like, there's 3 of us here that have said like, it's
I love it.
All of our races,
and even
like,
for endurance, even for ultra, for me, like I found that was a great training for ultra, was training for DECA. So I love that. I'm so on board.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like engine's engine. Like if you get
Mhm.
if you get injured, knock on wood, like the best thing you can do is try to go on like a low impact machine and go on like an assault bike or go on a ski or go on a rower and try to just like work your heart rate up there. And what DECA does is it keeps your heart rate relatively high for a long time and forces you to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Try to hold like a relatively aerobic slash lactic threshold, right? So and which is like all Spartan racing at all times. So it
Especially
definitely
5.
oh yeah, hands
Oh,
down. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you ultra killer, my goodness.
I know.
Yeah, it
Jill,
was
like,
just
Jill plays herself down and she's like, here
So
she's
much.
crushing ultras.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
well, that I was just really intrigued by the fact because I also am a trainer too. So, and I've trained athletes and kids like very much like you, Connor. I have a variety of different people, and I was the fact that it translated so much into the ultra was very interesting for me. So I'm
Cool.
glad that I did get to try that and put that to use. So, but
Yeah.
it's going to be effective for the next 5-10K that I do too. So
For sure.
absolutely. So I've got, I think we've talked about a lot of things, but I've got one more question for you, Connor.
Hit me.
And this is specifically, what would be your favorite or best piece of advice you would give to a rookie entering into their first Spartan Series race, whether it's Canadian, American, whatever? What would be one thing you would tell a first time series racer?
Okay. 90% of Spartan racing is running. I think that's the biggest thing is that we become very fixated on the obstacles, which is huge. You got to make sure you're still obstacle grip strength, forearms, upper body efficient. But the more you can run and build an engine, especially on hills, adding a couple to a few of those types of workouts in per week is going to be pivotal to you and your success in the sport, hands down, whether it be a longer recovery run, a weekend long run that's long for you, whether maybe that's like 5K to start off with, and then slowly that gets up to 8 and 10 and over 15 or whatever it might be. And then add in some type of hill interval run. Go to a hill, find a local hill and hit that for reps. With a warm up and a cool down, and try to push yourself on there so that when you get to race day, you feel a little bit more confident. And I think that's a
Awesome.
good little recipe. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys
love
heard it
that.
from the champ himself. So, I mean, take his advice. He's going for another win this year.
Oh,
So, before we chime off here, you post and you share a lot helping people prepare for races and obstacle efficiency and lots of stuff. So, where can people find you on social media, Instagram? What's the best place?
yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Spartan Stamina, or you can visit my website, www.spartanstamina.com. Like I said, I offer online coaching if anyone is looking for any additional information or they're looking to get started with the sport or helping them get an age group podium or whatever their goals might be. It's a free consult. So if you want to hop on, I'm just welcome to open to anyone, everyone interested in the sport. So yeah, find me there and hopefully get some good information on some Spartan racing, get you in your first one because you're going to love it and get addicted just like everyone else.
It's true. You'll get the bug. So definitely, guys, go over there, give him a follow. We are all cheering you on, Connor. We cannot wait
Absolutely.
to see the outcome of this weekend and the rest of this year. And just for fun, we're going to start a little thread in the comments here, voting now below. If you think Connor should move up to elite next year, I'll be the first vote because he's a killer on the field. I've seen him in action. So good
I'm
luck
voting
this
yes
year
too.
group. Yeah, good luck in age group. I'm very confident in what you're capable of and what you're going to achieve this year, and I'm excited to be here to watch it. So
You
all
guys
the
are
best to
hyping me
you.
up right now. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.